mail money.
Here's a news flash for you. Mel doesn't need my help.
I absolutely adore Doc. He's brilliant, he's clever, he cracks me up every time we speak. He's charming, and I swear to God, if you are gonna scorn like a Scotsman.
Have you seen any of her videos? Or is this just a thing that you're trying to do this divide and conquer, that Mel needs my help because I have testicles for some reason?
All right. Yay!
Hey. How you doing? It's lovely to be here.
So we had a few hiccups, not a big deal. We are live now with the episode 19. We've done 19 of these, Doc. This is the 19th one.
Yeah. It's been a long, strange journey, but we've had some fascinating guests throughout that time, quite honestly. And tonight we have yet another, an extremely rare breed of superpowered mutant. And I will leave the formal introductions to Mel, but I am fascinated to understand your story and hear all about you.
All right. So we have on our show today Dr. Amanda Glaze. So there are links to her website as well as her Twitter in the description. So do check out her work. So Dr. Glaze, Amanda, why don't you've been on my show a couple of times. You were on my Spirited Science about Darwin. That was fun. Sat around drinking.
Too much fun.
That was a lot of fun. So tell everybody who you are, what you love, what you do, no particular order. Are you okay?
I lost you for a minute there. Can you?
Oh, okay.
I'm
Okay.
stunned. Oh, amazement is killing me. Oh.
Amanda's been taken by the evolution demons. I'm sorry.
The demons! The power of Christ compels thee.
So, can you hear us?
I can now. I don't know what happened. I think it's because I live in a place where the internet's from 1985. But yeah.
Matthew Broderick time, War Games. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Oh my, that's a long story. So I am Dr. Amanda Glaze. I am a wife, mother, fisherman, crazy person. I am somewhat known for evolution education here in the United States, specifically in the South, where there is a lot of headbutting with evolution and religion. I guess the thing that Doc is so excited about is that I actually come from a Southern Baptist ministry family and became an evolutionary biologist and got into biological anthropology. So I can see you getting on the edge of your seat there, just so excited.
Yeah. I mean,
But yeah.
one talking to another scientist and one who has that kind of background is always good.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, I advocate for science education for everyone, because evolution ed is literally the greatest failing of science education in the 21st century. So, get out there, beat feet, and try to change public perceptions of science for what is literally the survival of mankind.
Yep.
And if you're not familiar with some of the work that she's done, I know you've worked closely with like Smithsonian and that sort of thing, helping them be able to bridge that gap. And I usually call it cultural resistance to evolution, because there's several different types of groups of individuals that are resistant to learning about evolution. And doesn't have to be exclusive to religion, but usually religion does kind of play a role in that. So, why don't you, I guess a question might be is, what is the most common pushback that you get when you're trying to talk about evolution?
Well, like you framed it, we call it cultural border crossing. So when you have a culture runs in contradiction, so it's perpendicular to what you're learning in science, the natural reaction to that is going to be to run away from that thing that contradicts and makes you uncomfortable and stick with what it is you've come up with. I think what a lot of people fail to realize is that worldview, that is a part of culture, religion plays into that, family plays into that, and so it's a part of your identity. And something that's an identity construct is not something you just break down by throwing more facts at people and treating them like you think they're ignorant. Surprise! Who would have thought? But probably, some of the biggest ones are ones that we talk about frequently. Things like, oh, it's just a theory, or, well, if I believe in that or even consider it, then I'm going to go to hell, so therefore I'm just going to ignore everything. And that's not on a student level, that's on a grown-up level, a teacher level, a politician level, an everyone level. So it's something we see persistently everywhere.
And, on reflection, if everyone in my social and cultural environment had been preaching even young earth creationism, in the absence of a strong educative force in the other direction, I can easily see how otherwise smart, reasonable people buy into the worldview that seems to me to deny reality.
So, I grew up.
It's difficult because you're talking about going up against something that is not just a simple choice. This comes up when we talk about teachers. So people will tell me, well, if you won't teach evolution, you shouldn't be a science teacher. But they never really take the time to find out why that person is not teaching evolution. They assume they're just dumb, or they assume they don't know it, or that, it's just a belief system and they just casually throw it aside. But what they don't understand, and this is a perspective that I bring coming from an evangelical background that was literalist, young earth creationist, is that in that evangelical tradition, you're responsible for your soul and everyone else's. So the fear of hell becomes this very tangible, real thing. And it's not just what am I doing in my life, it's what am I doing to other people with whom I'm in contact. So, when this is part of your identity and part of your worldview, that's not something that, you can just change in a unit on evolution, regardless of the level. That's something that requires a personal, as we said, cultural border crossing. But in order to do that, you have to have someone, something, some framework in place to help you navigate that, because you're literally moving away from something that is a part of who you are. It's a comfort. It's your safety zone. And so you're putting yourself there with the fear of, eternal retribution, right? Not just, oh, I don't like it. So, getting people comfortable enough to come in and even have the conversations is a big deal.
And see, me being a former high school teacher who was teaching biology in the Bible Belt to a bunch of farm kids, I grew up in the Nazarene faith. So if you hadn't checked that out, go give that a go. I'm pretty certain you might understand. They're like in between Baptist and Pentecostal. They're almost as restrictive as Pentecostals, but they're a bit more active than the Baptists, but they're very, very hellfire and brimstone.
Could you describe for the audience, and actually for me, what the core thing in that particular sect is? Because I lose count, beyond Orthodox, Catholic, and Protestant. I'm pretty much all at sea. What is that the focal belief there?
Well, for Nazarene, women had to look like women, men had to look like men. So men couldn't have long hair, women couldn't have short hair. We had to wear appropriate clothes. So there was a lot of the gender norms that were pressed upon. We had to pray every night before we went to sleep because salvation wasn't automatic. You had to ask for forgiveness every single evening, because if you died in your sleep, you could go to hell, even if you were a Christian. So it was extremely oppressive.
You got to keep that salvation topped up, right?
Yes, it's like topping up on, asking for forgiveness every night. So that's what I was brought up in. And so going into a classroom, knowing that is the main kind of stuff going on in the area where I was living, there was a lot of pushback. And so I couldn't address the religious thing. I had to go about it in a way saying, I'm a scientist. I'm not, I don't have a degree in religion. Why would you want me to talk about creationism? I don't have a degree in it. Go to an expert about that. So I just navigated that completely away. And I'm like, you can believe whatever you want to believe. This is a safe place here. I just want to make certain you understand what the words mean.
That's really a fantastic approach, though. And a lot of people don't do that. They teach the controversy, which is horrifying because it usually does not go well. Kind of like the Ken Ham, Bill Nye debate that took place. It doesn't really do anything. It just solidifies two different positions. But they don't focus on the science, and that's what we have to do. The science has to be there. Everything else, that is what you get from home. That's what you get from elders if you go to church or whatnot. So,
yeah. I mean, I take a little bit more of a direct approach these days. So when I'm teaching, I will ask, are there any young Earth creationists in the room? And if people put their hands up, I say, I respect your right to believe whatever nonsense you choose. Everything I say is data driven, and the minute you can do the same, you can teach your stuff in this class on my time. But that will never happen. So let's put that aside. Whatever lies you need to tell yourself, that's cool. But that's a different thing from the thing that we're actually learning about. So data, evidentiary base, hypothesis testing, established fact, and theories are built of facts in that context. So yeah, I'm a bundle of joy for the religious students. Like, oh God.
Well, I'll tell you, I get a lot of that actually from, I tell people the day I realized that I was having an impact is when I simultaneously angered, Jerry Coyne and the Discovery Institute were both coming after me in blogs at the same time. So I'm like, yeah, that's touchdown me.
Yeah, I mean, the Discovery Institute is fascinating because they've discovered exactly Dick all, and they describe themselves as a leader in creationist science. Can, as Aaron Ross said, can they still be a leader if they're dragging you back? And what are you discovering? And any scientific institute that has a required statement of faith isn't a scientific institute. Sorry.
The thing that concerns me on that end is the fact that misrepresenting science is very hurtful to those of us who are people of faith and scientists. So
precisely.
Hate to blow you away, Doc. I'm still a Christian, and I'm also
and I respect that very much.
Yeah, it ties into the fact that to be a good scientist, you know what science is and how it is done, and you recognize that whether you like it or not, you follow where the evidence goes. And that science cannot test the presence of God, cannot use God as an example, cannot even seek to prove anything about the existence of God because we are not equipped to study the metaphysical or the supernatural. That's all there is to that. But the thing that comes up with me is, when we're having those conversations here in the U.S., and I don't know how familiar you are with this, but I'm glad you're sitting down. Almost half of the population in the U.S. aligns to either a theistic or mostly actually creationist view when it comes to evolution. So, they've been doing this Gallup poll for 30 plus years, and 40% plus of the U.S. population thinks evolution is a lie.
It's amazing.
And
it really is.
Yeah. But we're at this.
I've lived predominantly in Northern Europe and Scandinavia, but in other places as well. And okay, I don't have the hard numbers here, but my feeling is pretty much nobody, except perhaps some bizarre sect living in the forest somewhere. But that's not a thing in the developed world.
But that's the thing. We are talking about part of the developed world. And I mean, research in the last decade has said, when they looked at acceptance of evolution among first-tier nations, the only country that had a lower acceptance of evolution than the United States among first tiers all over the world was Turkey. So that's what area, that's the zone that we're in. And so we're at this critical mass where we've got this first-tier nation that has massive technology and massive carbon footprint and all of these issues. And what we're finding is that because of these interactions, people are cherry picking the science. They're using beliefs or culture to say, okay, well, I'll take this little bit, but this over here, I'm just going to ignore it. Well, we're at a point where we can't do that any longer. Ignoring the science is what's going to eventually end us as a species, because we're going to extinguish ourselves because we're not listening to the evidence, we're not following where the data leads, and we're not, as a society where we have this democratic process, using scientific thinking and problem solving for policy and decision making. So it gets to a point where, okay, is it more important that I'm right in my rightness, right? Is it more important that, regardless of all other things, we help people find a scientific worldview? And in order to do that, one thing that I see is creating a bridge of the gaps. A majority of people fall in the middle, and that tone you take and those words you choose can throw in either direction. And I want that direction to be, I don't care where you come from. I don't care what religious beliefs or anything else you have. When you walk away from me, I want to have posted a spark, planted a seed for you to add a scientific worldview to what you have. And in order to do that, I have to make sure I can open dialogue and talk to you. So that to me is the greatest challenge of what I do, is you have to develop this radical empathy for people in light of the fact that their experiences may not be mine, and the things that they hold valuable may not be valuable to me, but to them they are. And so I have to learn them and understand and open doors to conversation, create safe spaces for conversation with things that maybe, at least in the United States, as traditional of a taboo as you can find in the 21st century.
Yeah. Well said. Can I ask, in your opinion, why is the US in this interesting state, which I understand to be decreasing religiosity overall, but increasing extremism within religiosity, as in Christianity in particular?
Oh, that's a strong opinion. So some of the conversations that I've had with colleagues is that the very nature of the creation of the United States as an entity for religious freedom and freeing persecution and so many other things, sometimes when you have too much freedom and not enough structure, it's like I tell my children, I have to give them structure because sometimes they'll meander off down these different paths. And, it's both a beautiful thing, but it's also something that can be malused and abused, because you do have the freedom to think what you want to think and to say what you want to say to an extent, and to believe what you want to believe. I mean, it's a double-edged sword.
Sure.
I find, I think, and one of the reasons I got into science communication is because of the the problems associated with science literacy. And one of the studies that I constantly go back and look at is the National Science Foundation and their benchmarks that they kind of go through every couple of years, where they'll go and see about acceptance of evolution, the Big Bang. Right now, the latest one came out for 2017. I think it was 2017, 2018 came out. 27% of the population believes in geocentrism. So the sun's essentially evolving around the earth. It used to be about, I think it was 24%, and now it's 27%. And so a lot of these numbers show we're in a decline of understanding to where it's more of anti-intellectual isms.
It is a post-truth error. It is a post-fact error in the case of science, because I don't ever like to hear people refer to science as truth, because truth is the realm of philosophy. Our realm is evidence and establishing, those explanations. But it's true. I mean, I've seen a massive influx, and a lot of my colleagues and I discuss this. So things like flat earthers, chemtrails, don't even get me started on some of the Alex Jones stuff. I mean, I'm just sitting here like, this is a parody, right? This is
No. Your president talks to Alex Jones. Trump appeared on the Alex Jones show.
Look, I have volunteered on multiple occasions to take over as education secretary, but what do I know? I'm just 15 plus years of teaching experience, so.
You don't know anything. Gosh, you don't have a yacht. God, yeah, thought you have to have a yacht and money.
You have to have a yacht. That's the qualification.
Evolution education cruise. It's going to be at my house, and we're going to put the kayaks in the drainage ditch on the front, and we're cruising from one street to the next. We just have to take turns. Bring your own snacks.
Oh, at the end will be a terribly fancy block party in the form of hot dogs and chili nachos.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. So I want to ask you, I come to YouTube's as the young people do sometimes. And I have some riff videos that we can take a look at. I've pulled a whole bunch. Mm-hmm. You mentioned Kent Hovind. I have a video of Kent Hovind talking about public schools do not teach both sides. There's a video of that. I also have a video of a person who is a street preacher trying to debunk evolution. I have some facts. I use that term loosely. It's more like stuff that was said in the film Expelled that was done by Ben Stein. I have another video. We had P.Z. Myers on the show once. He was actually in Expelled, and he was kicked out of the theater where he wasn't allowed to see the film that he was in.
Ben Stein is terrified of me. He pees himself a little bit every time he hears my name.
And then I've got an opinion video. Can you be a Christian and accept evolution? And then I got another video that says evolution is a religion, not science. And then I have another opinion video of evolution and how it's affected the school system. So whichever one you want to watch, we can just throw those up.
So many choices. Oh my gosh, how many are we choosing?
We can. I think most of these are like around 4 minutes, so you probably get like 3 or 4 videos out of here if you want. There's one.
Robin, surprise me! I'm down for anything. Let's go.
Okay, so let's pull up the Kent Hovind one. It's public schools do not teach both sides. It starts with the number 6. So let's pull that up. Mm-hmm. Let's have a look.
Actually, I was at Chickasaw, Oklahoma, a couple of weeks ago. It's supposed to be a debate, but none of the professors would debate me. So they scheduled an evolution seminar 2 days after I was gone. They let me come speak on creation. The student group got me in there. Here's a poster they put up right next to my poster. The poster was inviting people to come to the evolution seminar. Interested in evolution? Well, come on down. Evolution lecture with Dr. Mather and Dr. Ray. It says, hear both sides of the issue. Well, we invited them to debate. They could have heard both sides altogether. Here the kids get 9 months of evolution teaching. I come in for 2 hours and they panic. And then they got to say, here, both sides. Both sides. You're not going to present both sides.
Okay, so let's talk a bit about this. First of all, Dr. Kent Hovind, he doesn't actually have a doctorate. I think he got that from a guy that has a trailer in Florida. I'm not certain.
I read his thesis. It's great. But it's not an academic document at all in any respect. But I did like the Charles Darwin's grandfather was extremely fat and immoral. That's in it. There you go. Obviously a bastard.
Oh my God.
Ergo, evolution isn't true because Granddad was, yeah.
So nobody was interested in actually debating Kent Hovind for this particular thing. And he says, they're not interested in both sides. It's like you get 9 months of evolution. Okay, that's not true. They don't teach 9 months of evolution in any school that I know of, but you have to have all of this foundational knowledge leading up to evolution. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense.
So from a national data perspective, literally the average is 3 days in K-12 a year if you're in life science at that time. 3 days of evolution being taught. And I mean, why debate? That's like if I want to run up to a union somewhere and say, hey, debate me. I don't have anything to do with your field, but I just want to be heard on my point of view.
Yeah.
Well, I have very strong feelings when it comes to some of the debates. Like, I mentioned earlier the Ken Ham debate with Bill Nye. What possible good does that do except putting a non-scientific perspective up on a pedestal as being worthy of debate with science? Because they're not in the same field. I mean, if you follow Gold, non-overlapping magisteria, different ways of knowing, science is not religion. Religion is not science. Period. No conflation.
100%. I wouldn't enter into a spoken debate with these idiots. Kent Hovind, Ken Ham, Ray Comfort, because their tactics are too polished verbally, but I do like to respond in writing with citations to demonstrate their gross dishonesty. I mean, Hovind even misrepresents what he has previously claimed when it's so grossly and obviously in error. So the thing that upsets me about these guys is the dishonesty, not any aspect of their religiosity.
And that's true. And within any group that you look at, there's always that extreme fringe. And I mean, even within young earth creationism, those bodies that hold court over that system of belief have separated themselves from some of these people for the simple fact that what they are saying is so far beyond, even what they endorse. And it's like, I had somebody bring up, Kent Hovind today, wanting him to make a comment on a piece that I wrote about science and faith. Because again, I am a person of faith. I grew up young earth creationist. But at some point, you have to realize that even within a movement that people are engaged in, there are going to be people on the outer edges that really take things to an extreme that is just beyond what even the core can handle.
Yeah. And it's interesting. It's really weird. You get like rational and very evidence-based individuals who are looking at all the facts, and I encountered a lot of both when I was teaching biology in high school. And they're saying in the side chat, how can you cover stuff in 3 days? I usually had a week on evolution usually, and so about 5 days, three to.
With a week, that's more than what most people do, because there is that perception of conflict, and a lot of people just don't address it.
No, they don't.
I mean, I personally interwove evolution from day one, so that by the time you get to evolution in the spring, if you're on a year-long K-12 cycle, the kids are like, oh, that's evolution? Huh, no deal.
Yeah.
defuse the bomb, so to speak.
See, that's why you have the talk at the beginning and remove the elephant out of the room before you even get there. And you're just like, hey, I'm not a car mechanic. You wouldn't bring me your car. Why do you want me to talk about creationism? I don't have a degree in that.
But here's the thing that gets me. And this is why, this being such a big deal in the U.S., I find intriguing because we have the separation of church and state here. But people are completely okay with the concept of teaching creationism in the classroom as an alternative theory to evolution. But my question is this, whose creationism? People are okay with it as long as it's their particular take. But if you look in the Christian church across all the different denominations that are out there, there is a very wide coverage of what people, interpret. And, is it a parable? Is it literalist? Do we include extra books that were taken out in this century, many centuries ago? So even there's even a wide variety of flavors within the Christian Protestant angle. Yep. And so, people are okay with the concept as long as it's their brand of creationism that's being led into the classroom. But I guarantee you, if any of these legislative pieces on academic freedom, which is what, based on DI language, to frame up how you can, show a variety of perspectives in the science classroom, but you let a teacher start teaching non-Christian Protestant creationism in a classroom, and that school is going to be on every news channel across the country.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. And recently we're seeing something like that in Ohio. Have you seen that Ohio has legislation where they're going to allow students to answer with incorrect science answers to that suit their particular brand of belief system?
Well, that's going to work great until they take their ACTs and little Johnny or Susie don't get their scholarship because they didn't make high enough scores on the AP test, or they're taking the ACT and they missed an entire segment and don't score as well. There are implications immediately for these students for allowing that to happen. There's implications for the teachers for allowing that to happen. But there's also lifelong implications for the fact that, I just don't like this. I'm just going to pretend it doesn't exist. I am going to go out my merry way and just create around me, put on my rose-colored glasses, and create around me this bubble of existence that fits my narrative. That's not how this works. That's not how science works. That's not how life works. And so, we talk about fragility in human nature these days. A lot of it is our own doing. It is our own doing. We allow these things to perpetuate.
What do you think, Doc? I know you have probably want to chime in.
Yeah, a little bit, but I don't have a lot original to ask here because I'm hearing things that I agree with completely, and I applaud you for the work, both of you, for the work that you do. I find it astonishing that in order to accept the young Earth position, particularly, entire fields of science have to be all fake. Everything older than 6,000 years isn't real. It's done. Now, I love science and history and ancient history and archaeology and ancient, architecture, military history, and so on. All of that has to be fake. I just can't get my head around being able to accept that. It fascinates me that intelligent, nice people do. It's just so culturally alien to me.
Doc, it's really interesting that you bring that up because, I hear this. I've had students tell me dinosaurs are a hoax, that they're bones planted by science, that climate science and evolution and all these things are a conspiracy. And my retort is, have you ever met a scientist? Trying to get four of us to agree on where to have lunch is a monumental task. Get all of us around the world to unanimously agree with one another when the entirety of our discipline is based on peer analysis and falsification and trying to tear apart things to see if it really holds water. It's totally illogical. But ironically, I thought about this the other day. Even though I grew up in a Southern Baptist ministry family, with a literalist tradition, I love dinosaurs. My grandmother was a 5th grade teacher, and she taught science, and she loved science. And I grew up on a farm, so I really grew up a scientist without realizing I was a scientist.
Yeah, I understand.
But none of that ever came up. It was never like, oh, you can't love the dinosaurs because.
Yeah.
But then I realized later, I'm like, hey, well, that kind of contradicts that literal interpretation. It really wasn't until I was older in high school and tried to have a conversation about evolution specifically that the headbutting kind of happened. Because, I mean, I think, if you look at little kids, they love dinosaurs, and I don't recall ever hearing in church or anything else any anti-dinosaur propaganda, right? It wasn't like, oh, the dinosaurs are bad, they aren't real. It's just specific elements of science. It's like we can be okay with the concept of this, but no. With evolution, we're talking about humans. We're talking about, and even then they cherry pick. People cherry pick between, evolution can happen within groups, but across groups they can't. No, evolution is evolution. The micro macro thing is irrelevant. It's evolution. Period.
But a lot of people expect, the kitten to grow up to be a cat and then give birth to a lizard or a kitten with an extra wing or something, and that would go so far against what evolution actually is that, it's an impossibility. The crocoduck fallacy is a classic of this type.
Yeah,
that was Ray Comfort, and I think Kent Cameron. Science hasn't ever found one of these. Well, obviously.
We're not going to. That's not how this works.
Oh my gosh. Well, do you guys want to watch a bit more of the video? Sorry, Doc.
Yeah, I like to challenge by saying, if evolution isn't a thing, why is it a thing in my lab that generates real-life measurable results by a well-characterized, well-understood mechanism? Because it does and is, but it's not a thing. So I'm making everything up. I'm not conscious of making things up. I tend not to do that.
Oh gosh. Well, do you guys want to keep watching some Kent Hovind, or do you want to try a different video?
I hope he gets to his Loch Ness Monster hypothesis, because that's cool.
Okay. All right. I guess we'll keep watching some Kent Hovind.
You're going to present one side, the evolution side, which is what they already got for 9 months. They don't want to hear it. I think they said 20 people turned up, 15 of them are from the Baptist Student Union, just to see what the teachers would say. Okay. They hear both sides. Their own textbook there in Chickasaw, Oklahoma, has 1/4 of the book, one entire unit devoted only to evolution teaching. Nothing about creation. Evolution's a dying religion surviving only on tax dollars. It's dead. Picture. This textbook has over 100 pages where evolution is talked about. There's not one single mention of creation. So don't tell me they want to hear both sides. They don't, okay? They want to present one view only. It's called indoctrination, not education. Now, this is a chart showing how the atheists feel that the different states are doing with the teaching of evolution. They think you folks in Tennessee are doing a lousy job of teaching evolution to your kids.
That's from Scientific American. Okay. All right. So that's from Scientific American, that particular graphic of the states. So I don't know why he would just assume that they're atheists.
Yeah, so if you look at that beautiful map, that giant red chunk, and you find literally the very middle of it, that's where I grew up.
Oh my goodness.
So, like all of Kent Hovind's rhetoric, it sustains itself in the same way as a market trader sustains the spiel to sell the crap. And if you dig even slightly, it all falls apart. The first time I saw him present, I thought he was a poet. I thought it was a comedy because it was so dramatically and consistently wrong that it was actually painful.
And the fact he calls education indoctrination, I'm like, I can't. I don't understand how he would consider education indoctrination.
Yeah. And guys, the fact that he mentions tax dollars. Oh, irony. In case anyone doesn't know, Kent doesn't like paying, he doesn't like rendering to Caesar things like income tax, and did about 10 years for that.
Yeah, he went to jail for not paying his taxes.
My thing is, anything you don't understand, the approach of, okay, attack it as indoctrination or try to separate it out, and that's why I do what I do. It's not about attacking this side or attacking that side. It's about legitimately creating conversation space, because you can't just say, oh, well, you believe this way, so, forget you and preach to your own choir. Pardon the wording there. Because what does that accomplish? If all I do is scream from one precipice at the other side about how wrong they are, and all they do is scream from their side about how wrong I am, is anything actually getting accomplished other than a bunch of people screaming at each other and nothing moving? And so it frustrates me to no end, because yes, we have a critical struggle. Yes, teaching evolution is a problem. Why is that an issue? Because it's the unifying theory across all the sciences. It's not just a biology thing. It's not just this, little fun blurb in the bylines of history. Holy crap. Chemistry, biochem, geology, everything has an input when it comes to evolution. So you're literally saying this is a global conspiracy to make up the concept of, change over time, descent modification, however you want to frame it. We literally can watch it with our own eyes. But you weren't there millions of years ago when X and X happened and whatever. Okay, so we're just going to pretend that none of this ever happened. Okay, no.
What I love as a work of elegant science is the comparative analysis of the twin-nested hierarchies, the one we made from morphology, to suggest relatedness based on shared features, and how when we solved genomes, it mapped almost, but not entirely, over what we had already determined from an entirely independent and mechanized readout. For me, that was, all right, that's a done deal now. We got this right. And as Amanda says, you can measure it, you can watch it happen, you can induce it to happen. And in terms of complexity, we've learned an awful lot more about how things happen, but the fundamental of non-random survival of randomly varying replicators is factual. Done deal.
But that's just it. Evolution and science are based on logical processes and physical evidence in a physical world. It is vetted highly. I mean, there's no one more critical of a scientist than every other scientist. That's what we do. It's not even meant to be an ugly thing. It's meant to be we have to make sure before we put this out there that it's actually viable. And so when we get these confirmations, genetics, from embryology, from biochemistry, from the fossil record, evolution is one of the most highly substantiated theories that we have. I mean, if there's anything that we can poke holes in, evolution is one of the furthest things away. And it gets to that whole idea of evolution as a religion. We are not believing in evolution. I tell people, I nearly made some scientists at the Smithsonian stroke out because I said, hi, my name is Dr. Amanda Glaze. I don't believe in evolution, and neither should you. and there's people like fanning themselves. The vapors is coming on. Yeah. And I'm like, but it's not a matter of belief. Evolution is about acceptance based on the evidence that is out there. To me, belief is something that is based on faith. Faith is not based on a requirement for evidence. In fact, I will argue that if you require evidence in order to have faith, then you have none to begin with.
Hear, hear.
Well, that's fair enough. I mean, I would have liked to have seen all the people in the Smithsonian.
I like this lady, Mel, because I don't have to say anything. There it is. Yeah. Anyone wants to know what I think what she said just then? That was great. That was perfect.
Oh my goodness. I feel like we should probably look at something other than Kent Hovind.
Can we pull up Darwin from the Wild Thornberries? That is a cartoon that, when it comes to my childhood, was really fraught with misconceptions.
Oh my God. I don't have that one with me. Maybe next time I'll pull that in if you're on the show again. All right. How about we go with, oh God. Let's see. How has evolution affected education? What about that?
Okay.
How has evolution affected education? Let's pull that video up and have a go with that and see. Dude in a red shirt. It's very Star Trek.
Here we go.
How has evolution affected education? Well, most students, when they go through a public education system in the United States, most of them are taught that evolution is a scientific fact, that life has evolved from lower organisms and so on, going all the way back to a single-celled organism all over millions of years and by accident. Now, a lot of people think when they send their students to public schools that they're going to get a neutral and balanced education. After all, it is a public school. You'd expect it to be neutral. But education, by its very nature, cannot be neutral. And when students are taught that evolution is true, they're being taught a particular worldview, a worldview that is the basis for atheistic or naturalistic thinking. They're being taught that the Bible is wrong. They're being taught that the Bible's history is not true, and that does have an effect on the way they think about things.
But are they though?
Some students act out in very
Okay, so they're out there. He also goes into saying how students act out violently with this sort of thing. All right, what do you think? What do you think, Dr. Glaze? What do you think about all that? What do you think about that, Amanda? Just that it's proving this wrong, and I don't know what his PhD is.
So, I mean, ironically, this is not the first time I've heard the teaching evolution makes students act out thing. I don't know if you're familiar, but the humble hometown from which I hail is also the former hometown of Roy Moore.
Ah.
Yes. And so, I remember even in high school, I think it was 97, I was in high school. I'm dating myself here. He was an argument then that teaching evolution was responsible for causing an increase in drive-by shootings.
Yeah.
That if you teach people they are animals, that they are going to behave like animals, which, it's there are so many things there that bother me that it's hard to even get started because, again, there's so much conflation of trying to put a square peg in a round hole when it comes to science or religion. Religion is not meant to be science. Science is not meant to be religion. There are very different ways of viewing the world. Now, it's true. Both have personal value to individuals, but they're separate. And I always have trouble struggle, when people conflate the two or try to make the two fit somewhere they don't fit.
Yeah.
You have to be an atheist to be a good scientist, but you have to be a good scientist to be a good scientist. And part of that involves being able to compartmentalize what religion is as a way of knowing and what science is as a way of knowing. They are not held to the same standard. And again, therefore, science belongs in the science class. Religion does not.
No, I agree. I think it's interesting. There is a regular association. They're saying that we have an increase of crime now because we're teaching evolution in schools, and the two have absolutely nothing to do with one another. And there's actual data to support that it's gone down. Crime was actually pretty worse around Darwin's time and prior to him showing up and saying words,
It's as credible as the vaccines are a plot to reduce the population of the Earth. Because if that's the case, we've been failing hard for about 200 years. So what value is your conspiracy? And if we're just making things up, let's go hog wild,
Yeah, it's just some of these videos are just so cringy. You just want to put your head to the wall sometimes when you're watching some of it.
This guy's kind of interesting, though. He's got the Chicken Little family-friendly, maybe it's not such a good thing. He's just kind of sneaking up to Pascal's wager. I know it's just around the corner. And he needs to work on his posture because he's not presenting himself very effectively.
A critique on his presentation.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what a lot of this is about, and a lot of what we face in the U.S. when it comes to science education. People want their faith, to an extent, even people of faith, are okay with learning science. And so when you present them with this third option that seems to be friendly to your faith and includes it in the science classroom, people highly endorse it. And it's damaging because of and I'm a person of faith and a person of science. But to me, it's personally damaging because I don't want science meddling in my faith, and I don't want my faith meddling in my science.
As I've put it, maybe a little more harshly, no magic tricks in science class and no science in church. Totally different things feeding totally different parts of our brains. And as you've pointed out, I can't investigate the supernatural by definition.
But again, I tell people, I said, we cannot test for the presence of God because God is a supernatural metaphysical entity. And if you could test for God and find evidence of God, then he's not God, is he?
That's right. Ka-ching, there you go. And we can all be friends. Let's teach our kids what really happens in the world and, be nicer people, I think.
Yeah. Do we want to keep watching the dude in the red shirt? We have a commercial here in a bit from our latest sponsor. So we'll do that in a minute. I guess let's watch some more of the dude in the red shirt and see what he says.
Incidentally, to interject, one of my PhD supervisors is a very devout Christian. And I only had one conversation with him on the subject of evolution. And it went, well, that's science and my faith is different from that. It's a mystery. I don't understand it, but I have faith in this. And that was it. And that was all. It's like this hard boundary between the two. And we're talking about one of the most intelligent and erudite people I've ever had the privilege of working with. So I respect that. I don't understand it, but I respect it.
Yeah, fair enough. So, all right, let's have a look at the red shirt guy. I don't know his name. Here we go.
Glaze. Well, it's not really surprising if you teach a child that you're nothing more than rearranged pond scum, you're just an animal that evolved from the slime. It's not surprising that they would tend to act on that. And so we've seen an increase in school violence and other things. And again, I'm not saying that evolution is the cause, but it certainly has fueled the flames. It's very important, therefore, that Christians train their children properly to be able to answer these questions and to show them that biblical creation is true, biblical creation is confirmed by science, and for that matter, all education really ought to be based on the Christian worldview. What, after all, is the purpose of education? Many people think, well, it's just so you can get a job later in life, but that's not really the purpose of it. You see, the Bible tells us that we're to pattern our thoughts after God. In Isaiah chapter 55, God calls the wicked person out to repent because he's not thinking the way that God thinks, and his ways are not like God's ways. You see, the whole purpose of education is to learn to think in a way that is consistent with the character of God, to take captive every thought into obedience to Christ. Now, evolution and other secular ideas have
let's
had a very
pull us
negative
back a bit
effect
because there's a lot to unpack there.
Well, I will agree with one thing he said. I do think education is to make us think in a way that is consistent with God. And God was obviously such an incredible, to me, God is real. And I think of my God as being so full of vision and wonder and amazement that he, that this world around us exists. So absolutely, I want to have the mind to be able to think in a way that can dream up a tree and a cardinal and a bacterium and, all these cool things in the ocean that are mammals and fish and, dinosaurs. That just sounds like a really cool way to think. But I am pretty sure it doesn't line up with what he is espousing here. And honestly, when I see all education should be based on the Christian worldview, Okay, so that is where the true meaning of the video takes place, that all education should be based on siphoning people into this way of thinking. Well, that's okay, that's fine. Even within the Christian church, though, how many different varieties of Christian worldview exist?
About 10,000.
Yeah, a Catholic Christian worldview is very different from an Orthodox Christian worldview, is very different from a Seventh-day Adventist worldview. I mean, even within the Christian church, there are so many varieties of levels of interpretation of the Bible and events and things like that. Again, it just points to, as long as you agree with our particular choice in worldview, then we want that taught. But then who decides that? And once you cross that line, boom, there you go. You're right back into state-sponsored religion.
Yeah.
Which is the whole reason that this country was founded to begin with.
Yeah. I mean, I can't listen to this guy who sounds nice and inoffensive, spouting what I hear as proto-fascist rhetoric. What I want is a theocracy where my guys control the narrative and everyone else is the other. And I can invoke religious reasons why that's the case. And then I hear in my ancestral mind the words Deus Vult. And a lot of people used to die after that was shouted. And I know it's a slippery slope argument, but I sniff out fascism and go, let's nip that one in the bud. Because this guy sounds nice. It's like he's not saying anything that most people would find objectionable.
Yeah.
It's like religious schooling and nice and people behaving well. And it scans quite well, doesn't it?
That's how demagoguery works.
Yeah.
How people are able to move the masses is by coming across, well versed and utilizing that doctorate behind the name. But just because you've earned a title doesn't mean, if you're acting outside of the principles of that field, that what you're saying is still validly representing that. It's effort.
Can I probe Amanda a little bit? Can I ask a direct question? What are your thoughts on Georgia Purdom as a scientist?
On who?
Georgia Purdom. She is the legit geneticist that works with AIG.
Genesis with Ken Ham. They have a podcast together.
Where, I mean, I would have to say.
So I don't know all the names of players, but there's a lot of that, though. We see a lot of that. There are a lot of people who have, earned their scientific degrees, and then, they go out there. Well, I won't say a lot, but they tend to flaunt those when you're looking at things like Answers in Genesis or Discovery Institute. That, well, we have people who are scientists too. But you see, here's the thing: a scientist is not defined by the fact that they refer to themselves as a scientist. A scientist is defined by the nature of and process of science that they are conducting and representing in publication in the field. That's why peer review exists. And so it's not even an attack on the scientist. Just saying I'm a scientist and then I go do something way over here by virtue of the fact that I still have the credential that I earned years ago does not make what I'm saying automatically become science. It is the process and nature of science that makes something scientific. Francis Collins is amazing because he'll say things like, well, I am a person of faith and I really wish that what I learned in science did not conflict with what my beliefs say, but I will follow where the evidence goes. And it's in that transparency that he models the fact that part of being a scientist is not just having a degree. I know plenty of people with no degree at all that are pretty amazing scientists.
I know people
is not what you call your.
I know people with PhDs I wouldn't trust to clean out my salad drawer. Conversely,
Oh my goodness. This might be a good time to throw up our commercial. It's from our latest sponsor, from Dr. I Am Bias. She's been up here in the past with trying to rewrite textbooks. She has a service for that. She tried to run for superintendent for a local school district. She didn't win, guys. I know that's shocking, but she has a new venture for us to enjoy. So let's check out this commercial from our fake sponsor that I totally didn't make up.
Hello, I am Dr. I Am Bias. You might remember me from my textbook rewriting services and running for education superintendent. Thanks for voting for me if you did. I didn't win though, huh? Anyway, guess what? I am back to tell you that I have recently started promoting a new album. The album is called Science and Other Myths by my band, The Truth Tellers. We have toe-tapping songs that get you moving while teaching you the wrongs of science. You might have heard some classics like Round Earth Roundabout, Evolution Confusion, Space is a Liberal Lie, and my favorite, We Didn't Come From Monkeys. Oh, we didn't come from monkeys. We didn't swing from trees. We're not a piece of seaweed blowing in the breeze. It wasn't a big explosion that caused you and me. You see, it's a toe-tapping song, and y'all really like singing along with me just then, didn't you? I know you did. The album is only $9.95 with free downloadable content, including lyrics for you and your family to sing along to. So don't wait. Call 555-TRUTH and order your copy of Science and Other Myths by the Truth Tellers just in time for the holidays. Order today.
Well, there we go. Well then, there you go.
Yeah, I'm going to buy like a gross of those and give them all to my religious friends and family. So that means I'll need none.
Oh, gosh.
Well, one. I'll get one for Amanda because
I really,
that'd be nice.
I really want to hear the song "Space is a Liberal Conspiracy." I think I kind of want to find out what that's like. I hadn't listened to that tune yet.
You can't have gas pressure next to a vacuum because reasons. Apparently, that's the new flat Earth mantra, and it's like, excuse me while I
Flat Earthers. I don't talk to Flat Earthers, Doc. I don't know how it is that you can talk to them. I have a really hard time conversing with Flat Earthers. I just can't.
It's a whole new level. But if you can convince someone that the Earth is flat, you can sell them some bullshit, and I mean sell them some bullshit. Anything. I've got a vaccine for chemtrails that I can deliver by Skype, and it's $49.95. I'm going to make $1 million just doing that. Hey, America, get over your chemtrails. Give me
Oh my goodness. So that was Dr. I Am Bias. She's struggling right now. I guess
Good.
she hadn't found her market yet, so
She needs to become a flat earther.
she might. I don't know. It's particularly worrying. So gosh, we have, I don't know, we have a few more videos. I don't know if you want to watch another video.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's watch the one where there's the street preacher who's debunking evolution in an interview. He has on a pink shirt. It's a video playback.
street preachers are awesome. A few of them come into the rifle sights of the Psychic Vampires podcast. But I'm getting an image now in my psychic emanations of we're just about to throw a street preacher into the piranha pool, and we're just waiting. It's like, what idiot stuff is he going to say?
God, I kind of feel bad for them sometimes. You know, it's like when I go downtown, some of what they say is particularly toxic, though, sometimes. So let's have a look at this and see what he has to say, I guess. We can give that a go.
Hey guys, I'm going to be starting a new series where I interview some creationist street preachers. Let me know if you want to see more videos like this, and let me know what questions you'd like me to ask in the future.
Yeah.
All right,
He's
enjoy.
How's it going?
It's going great, my friend.
So I see you're with this group talking about, what's your purpose here today?
My purpose is I'm preaching the gospel, and the gospel is a message about what God came to do to save sinners from the power of sin. Every human being has a bad record, and every human being has a bad heart. So Jesus Christ came to save people, not just from their bad record, which can be cleansed through his shed blood, but also to save them from the power of sin, which is where all these wicked actions come from. So that's the essential message. It's good news for bad people.
Can I chime in?
I saw you guys had
Pause. So far,
Sure.
I like the sound. I like how this sounds. That all sounds pretty reasonable to me. It's a different cosmogonic scheme to mine, but I'm like, so far so good. You know.
Yeah, so far so good. He hasn't really delved into any evolution yet. I think he has good intentions. You know, I think a lot of them have really good intentions.
Spoiler alert, it's going to get nuts.
God.
Tell me about those wicked acts and the sodomites and the whatnot and
gosh.
who's going to burn and... Yeah.
Well, we'll see. Let's see. I haven't watched fully this just yet, but we'll see. Let's see. What else does he have to say?
evolution is a lie sign. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, one of the guys had that sign. It's not my sign. I do believe in microevolution, but I don't believe in macroevolution. So I believe there's changes within a species, but not one species changing into another. First of all, I don't see clear, compelling scientific evidence. Second of all, it's clear that every human being came, you just look at the gene pool, it's clear that we all came from an original set of parents. So I believe that God made man in his image, and that God let Adam rebel, and after Adam rebelled, we've all inherited the sinful nature, and now people suppress the truth about God and come up with, you know, theories like evolution to put their hope in, hoping that they won't be held accountable for sin.
Okay. So what do you think about
let's
Christians
talk
who
about
accept
this for a
evolution?
second.
Well,
so basically sin is genetic is what I got from that we inherited sin from other people.
Well, original sin.
Original.
So let's give him that. Again, the guy seems nice and earnest, and you know, he's incorrect on a couple of things, but you know, the message doesn't seem too bad.
Right.
I mean, from my point of view, I have to agree with you. He seems like what I deal with a lot with teachers and people in communities. I mean, this is legitimately his belief, and that's what he has been told, or what he has explored certain sources for. What I hear in this is not malintent. What I hear in this is misconceptions.
Yeah.
A number of misconceptions. So I really, this would be somebody that I would actively, you know, just go up and engage with and sit down and talk with.
How would you go about
100%.
that? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, 100%. And I would start by showing him documented cases of speciation and say, okay, you've bought into it so far, and this is the break point, and here is something that goes beyond it. I'm interested in, you know, the process of thought. But this is a guy I could have a conversation with.
I think so. How would you go about that, Amanda, if you were to, you know, take this guy to coffee and sit down and talk with him a bit to kind of, what would your method be on trying to get him to understand macroevolution, do you think?
So my thing is, and the advice that I usually give people relative to SciComm and bridging gaps is, if you want to really be able to have an impact on somebody, first thing you have to do is shut up. So this would be one of these things where I want to know more. You know, tell me where you learn these things. I want to know what kind of sources that you're looking at. I want to find out how you are defining these things, because that gives me a place to start. One of the most dangerous things we do in talking to people about evolution is that we assume that if they don't accept evolution, or if they're anti-evolution, that they're ignorant of the concepts. And very often that's not true. Evolution behaves very strangely, because when it comes to evolution, more you know does not mean you necessarily accept, because it's got this identity background factor going on. And so, once I find out those things in a way that doesn't attack or try to teach down at him the concepts, just having a conversation about the fact that, I grew up in a Baptist church, and so I can relate to a lot of what you're saying. And, some of the things that I've learned are, and it usually centers around elements of the nature of science. I mean, we know that from research. A majority of the hangups that people have are really misunderstandings of what science is and how it works. And I'm hearing a lot of that, in the concepts and in the things that he's saying, so.
I mean, that's fair enough. I know a lot of, and I often kind of go around the idea of what's the goal of the conversation? What is it that you want to actually accomplish by having that conversation? Are you wanting them to understand terminology, or are you wanting to, it's just, sometimes I find people who go and get involved in different debates or whatever, they're quite aggressive. And so is the goal of the conversation to feel like you've won something, or is it to actually educate the person you're speaking to? So,
but that's a huge point. If you go into something like a debate, your goal is to win. And for me, the battle is not science versus religion. It's a war for science literacy. I mean, this is a critical and pivotal thing. And if you walk in setting the woods on fire, you're not even going to get someone to actively listen to you. And I've found that by starting that conversation by listening, they realize that I'm not just out to get them. It's not a gotcha. It's not a you're dumb and I'm the smart person. It's not a I'm looking down my nose at you because of your beliefs. It's a genuine interest in that person and the story that they have to tell. And it allows for so much room. And you know what? They may not walk away from the conversation being any more accepting of evolution, but maybe now they have this perspective of, hey, this person was a scientist and they're from where I come from and they're okay with this. Maybe I need to look at it a little bit more. And to me, that's a win, because that's one of those things where regardless of where you're coming from, I want everyone to walk away with a scientific worldview, or at least with the where they can add that scientific worldview to everything they already have.
And they can also see you as a resource to go back to where they can further the conversation if that's something they want to do without fear of being, disparaged,
Not so much with me. I'm a little bit more heavy on the comedic aspects of ridiculing absurdities, specifically amongst the small population who are actively dishonest, not like the gentleman in the video that we just watched. That
right.
I make the distinction between sincere beliefs that are scientifically incorrect and the out and out grifting that tends to come with the A-list young earthers.
Yeah, the Kent Hovens and Ken Hams of the world that make money off of that sort of thing, which I find,
I see these guys as frauds, quite frankly.
They're vastly different. I have a question for you guys. Are you up for a challenge?
I am. Yeah.
So we reached a portion of the show where we have an alien, a resident alien from another planet, who shows up, and he's going to deliver a challenge. And this particular challenge, it has to do with science denying books. You have to guess if it's a real science denying book or not.
No.
Oh goodness, but here we go. So this is Roswell. So let's have a listen and see.
Hello, my name is Roswell. Well, hello, Doc Savage. How are you today?
Hi, Roswell.
Excellent. And I see we have the incomparable Dr. Amanda Glaze with us. How are you today, ma'am?
Greetings to you, Audrell.
Wonderful. Well, I'm here to deliver a challenge to you. Are you guys ready?
Yes. Ready.
You're ready. All right. We got a super chat in. Thank you, Learning with Suze, for $20. Dr. Glaze is awesome. Keep fighting the good fight for science literacy. Thank you for having her on. So that's from Learning with Suze. All right. Thank you for the super chat. All right. So, Roswell, what's the challenge?
So the challenge is this. I'm going to give you the title of a book. It's a science-denying book. And you have to let me know whether or not this book is real. If you're playing along in the side chat, do not forget that next Sunday is the last day to gain Mail's Minions points so you can get a swag bag. So let's go ahead and get started.
All right. Let's get that first challenge, Roswell.
Yeah, I'm strapped in and I'm completely ready for this, Roswell.
Here's your first challenge. This book is called The Greatest Lie on Earth, proof that our world is not a moving globe. So, it's a flat earther book. It claims that it's going to reveal the mother of all conspiracies, that it has biblical proof and irrefutable evidence that will cause the scales to fall from your eyes and you'll see the truth. So, is this a real book?
Yeah, that's a real book.
Yeah, sadly, yeah, it is a real book.
That's a real book. Let's see. Roswell, what's the reveal? Is this a real book?
This is a real book. It's written by Edward Hendry, and you can purchase it on Amazon for about $28. So they essentially go through and he discusses that the world is flat, that the spin of the earth is a lie, and all of this other stuff. I can't be bothered, honestly.
Lies! It's all lies! Actually, the reason I always wear a hat is my head changes shape like Roswell's does. And I'm a bit sensitive about it. It's a talent I've tried to develop with my genetic engineering skills. So that's the reason. There you go.
You know, I'm beginning to think you're probably from the same planet as Roswell.
Yeah.
Roswell visits you often, from what they tell me. So.
So yeah,
right.
that was a real book. Let's go.
Next. That's a real book. Next challenge. All right, let's see.
Here is your next challenge. This book is called Dinosaurs and the Big Lie. Simple steps to prove that evolution is a hoax. Truth seekers. So, this particular book goes through and tries to refute the theory of evolution, Big Bang Theory, and dinosaurs, all from a religious perspective. So, is this book real? What do you think?
I think this is a trick question because I don't think this book is real, but I think Dinosaurs of Eden is real by Dr. Kent Hovind. That's my answer. You sneaky alien, Roswell. You thought you got me, didn't you?
What do you think? What do you think, Amanda?
I've seen so many, this is the blockbuster that will prove all the lies of the scientist books that nothing surprises me anymore. So I kind of lean towards that being real as well, sadly.
Okay. We'll see. So we got division. The people in the chat think it's real. Some people think it's real. So let's see. Is it real, Roswell?
This is a real book, and it's written by C. Pickle. You can purchase it on Amazon for around $8.70 or something. There was a review here, and I found it quite interesting. They say, cool but shallow. This is more of a pamphlet than a book. The information contained is in bullet statements rather than paragraphs. Also, the amount of information is rather shallow. I'd like a lot more in-depth comparisons. The cost is so low, even if you're completely satisfied, you aren't out a lot.
So it's a real book.
$8. That's the price of a good paperback, right? So I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have a collection of textbooks, the majority of which are legit, but I have a small collection of the weird ones, like Humanity's Extraterrestrial Origins, which isn't about panspermia. It's about aliens poking monkeys and whatnot. Yeah. And
I think
the
you're
one-
being judged, Doc.
the microbiology one that says germ theory is all bogus. It's all vibrations and whatnot. So, these are fun. But they're not science. Not at all.
Oh my goodness. Let's see what the next challenge is.
Here's your next challenge. This book is called Inconvenient Data, proving the consensus of scientists is wrong. So it's a climate change denying book. It clouts itself as being a terribly serious study of how the climate is changing based on the best available estimates, where we get global and sea surface temperatures from the past. So what do you think? Is this a real book?
Amanda?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a real book because I think somebody sent me a copy of that.
Yeah. If it isn't, it will either become one or it's very similar to many.
A lot of scientists refer to inconvenient data, right? Because it's usually the one that completely goes the way you didn't expect it to go or costs us more money in equipment, right? That's inconvenient data. Is it inconvenient because it doesn't agree with what they believe in? I mean, I guess that's what makes it inconvenient. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's real.
So as a scientist, one of my proudest moments was being proven incorrect in one of my hypotheses. Although it was validated by the data I had, and I was proved incorrect by someone who was a better scientist than I am. And he called me up and said, I'm publishing this. It proves you incorrect. It's not a personal thing. I'm like, no, this is what we do. You have improved the aim overall. It's brilliant when that happens.
But that's the thing about science that I love so much. The thing that gets thrown in my face a lot is, well, science doesn't prove anything. No, science doesn't prove anything because proof is not a scientific function. We explain things to the best of our ability in that moment in time, but we never accept anything as 100% proven because once we consider that, we no longer ask the questions. But it's that nature of science as always being self-correcting over time with new discoveries, new tests, new technology. That to me is the power of science. That's that we learn from failure. And hey, a majority of what we know comes from failure, not from success. If everything in the lab always goes the way you expect it to, we learn nothing.
Yeah, 100%. You're allowed to be wrong. You're encouraged to be wrong. I've published a paper that I said, this is consistent with all of the data, but I don't think it's correct. This is the model that is relevant to all of the data and concurs with it, but I don't think it's correct. Prove me wrong. And people did. And it was a valuable paper, irrespective. It was a purely scientific and purely theoretical one. If all of this data is accurate and complete, this could be correct, but I don't think it is. Oh, I published lies. No, not really.
Oh, goodness. All right, Roswell, is this a real book? I'm curious.
This is a real book. You can purchase it on Amazon for about $19.50. It's from the author known as George Root. So he's going through and he talks about essentially how CO2 does contribute a little bit to the atmosphere, but he has all of this proof to show otherwise. And by the way, this is a third edition. There are 2 other editions of this. So maybe this is a work in progress for him. I don't know. What do you think?
I love the crackpot index, and I'm just going to call it here because it specifically assigns high point values for people who, number one, name a theory after themselves but have absolutely no legitimate publishable evidence to support said theory. Because anybody can publish something these days in a book. That's why journals are so important to what we do. But good grief. And at some point, people have to stop and say, okay, where is this coming from? Is this just somebody cranking this out in their basement, or is this an actual scientifically vetted paper? But sadly, nowadays, people are not doing that. They're just, oh, it's in a book. It must be facts.
Yeah.
It's on the internet. So it's true, right?
So as a much younger man, many years ago, before the internet, as a postdoc, I got an alarming. I did some media work and was visible, and I got an alarming number of submissions of scientists in inverted commas experimenting, usually on themselves, in their shed, with some pretty bizarre stuff going on, and it looked a lot like science, but it was a pastiche. It was presented as science. Would you consider co-publishing with me on this? So you're administering aspirin to yourself through your skin with DMSO and sodium hydroxide. No, I'm not publishing with you. Oh, and you haven't had a cold, therefore it's a cure for the cold. No, no, stop. And at that time, I would say, thanks for writing to me, but stop doing this, and I can't be involved in what you're doing. Now you can post it on the internet or publish it very simply, and I think that's a good thing, but the insanity tends to draw a crowd. You get an audience for your nonsense rather than you're a guy in a shed with a bunch of chemistry.
Oh gosh. It's pretty frightening what people will actually pass off as factual. I kind of think of the whole Harry Potter thing. I'm technically House Slytherin because I took the test, guys, like 4 times, and they threw me in Slytherin house. I'm like, well, I guess Lady Snape, perhaps, maybe that's my jam, but it's okay. But, and then there's other people who think, we have to burn Harry Potter books because that's real. And there are people who think that that's legitimate witchcraft. And then and then it's like J.K. Rowling actually made it up. So you have this. Yeah,
can you hook me up with those people, because I've got something to sell them.
Oh gosh, but it's like this is a legitimate thing. People were burning Harry Potter books because they felt like it had real witchcraft in it. So it's like, okay, but yeah. Oh my gosh. Anyway, we got one more challenge. Sorry, go ahead, Dr. Glaze.
Just a thought. Confirmation bias is a powerful thing. These people are out there, but people are actively looking for it to confirm what it is that they subscribe to. And so it gains that traction. All right, bring on the next one.
Well, this is the last one, I think. So let's see if you guys. Sometimes Roswell tricks us and makes them all real. So I don't know.
Here's your last challenge. Space is a conspiracy, proven from scriptures, reason, and fact. This particular book goes through all of the different old texts associated with various religions to talk about the conspiracy of space and that it's not real, but something that we've all made up for some reason. Oh, who knows? So, what do you think? Is this a real book?
Dear God, I hope not.
I don't think it is, but I think there are many like it, because flat Earth and whatnot.
Okay, let's see. People in the chat, post if it's real or not, if you think it's real. What do you think, Amanda? Is it a real book?
This is not real. I am going to err on the side of sense and say, please let this not be a space is a mass hallucination thing. But
yeah, man.
I'll be devil's advocate and say no on this one. Please.
All right. What's the answer, Roswell?
This is not a real book. However, you can purchase a flat earther book called Terra Firma, The Earth Not a Planet, Proved from Scripture, Reason and Fact, written by a David Wardlaw Scott. Apparently, 76 people have read this book. So it's unusual early work on flat earth theory, so I don't know. You can buy it for $17 on Amazon.
No, don't do that.
Terra Firma. So the Earth is not a planet based on Scripture. So then what is it? That's what I want to know. In inquiring minds here. If it's not, I mean, is it? I don't know.
It's a magical space pancake.
There we go. Yes.
A cosmic frisbee.
Oh goodness.
Enchanted biscuit.
Colored donut.
Yeah. I tend to ask the flat earthers, is Earth a supermassive object in a universe that has gravity? And they go, no. And then the conversation stops. Gravity's a thing. We have it. Earth is supermassive. Ergo, Earth is an oblate spheroid. Because that's how it works. It's really very basic. A lot of time, oblate spheroid. That's it.
Oh gosh, Roswell. Sorry. Go ahead, Dr. Glaze.
Planet.
Oh gosh, it's silly. I don't get flat earthers. Anyway, Roswell has some final messages, I think, to tell you guys. So we'll go through those really quickly, I guess.
You guys did wonderfully well on this particular challenge. It's quite difficult to be able to determine if this is a real nonsensical book or not. It's, my job is quite difficult. Anyway, Dr. Amanda Glaze, it was lovely to meet you. Thank you for stopping by and playing along. Doc Savage, again, I'm going to beat you at chess someday. I know it. I just know it. I've been practicing. Maybe next weekend if you're free.
You'll never beat me at chess, and I'm washing my hair forever.
Okay. Well, Roswell, I guess we'll see you next time. I think you got one more message.
Well, I can keep trying at that, I suppose. Anywho, those of you who played along in the side chat, don't forget, Mel will give you minions points for playing along that you can use towards winning a swag bag. Anywho, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day and enjoy the last bits of the show, Audacity. Bye!
Bye.
Goodbye, scary disembodied alien head. Bye.
I'm beginning to think you're from the same planet as Roswell, Doc. I really think so. Yeah. I mean, you got the spiky head thing going on, so.
Don't blow his cover, Mel.
No, I'm an Arcturian or a reptilian. I'm not quite certain. We're coming for you.
Oh my goodness, we have one more segment, guys, and this is just where we it's what we call stupid things on the internet, and there's something we absolutely have to talk about because there's a new stupid trend that people are doing. So we've got the Audacity.
Yeah, in honor of G-Man, a stupid thing on the internet.
Oh God. So let's go ahead and do stupid things. We've got the Audacity. Oh my goodness. You guys, I can't.
My name is G-Man. You got the Audacity. You're going to jail. You got the Audacity. My name is G-Man. You got the Audacity. That's all I got to say. You got the Audacity. I sold $3,000. You got the Audacity. Audacity. You got the Audacity. Because you don't got no evidence. My name is G-Man. My name is G-Man.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, there you go. You don't got no evidence. Yeah. For clarity, I don't dislike G-Man because he's a bonehead. I dislike him because he's a vicious, dishonest little swine. So just to be clear.
Yeah. He's not very nice, and he said lots of ugly things about me before because I won't debate him on things and stuff. And I'm like, no. And he's actually been very unkind in the past. So, we take his Audacity and we made Audacity out of stupid things people say on the internet.
Mm-hmm. So what delights do we have in the stupid bucket today?
You guys, there's a video. So there's a video. People have been sunning their perineum.
Oh God.
They're doing what?
Let's check out that video for stupid things.
Wait. Sun gazing with your ass, right? Yeah. Has anyone ever had a sunburn taint? Because
I have a person who has done that. So let's watch this video on sunning your perineum.
Person or am a person who have done that?
No. I have a celebrity who has burned his butt doing this, and we'll see that in a minute. But let's
Mandy.
Let's do it. Oh, I'm loving this.
Let's have a look at that video.
This could be my new thing.
So for under stupid things, there's sunning perineum video. Let's have a look at that.
In a mere 30 seconds of sunlight on your butthole, you will receive more energy from this electric node than you would in an entire day being outside.
Right, I'm sorry, I'm calling Poe. He would not have used the term butthole, and that's a fake facial hair. But link me to this shit because I'm loving it.
I'll send you a link. But so there's this.
The fact that he was able to deliver that line without immediately cracking up lets you know that's orchestrated. It has to be. It has to be. And then there's people out there thinking, I need to be more well. Let me go put sunlight on my nether regions. That is what I am needing. Oh my God.
This started with an Instagram woman. A woman on Instagram posted a picture of her sunning her butt, her anus, her perineum, butthole, whatever you want to call it. She was sunning that. So it started as an Instagram fad, and then people started doing this. And so
because people are dense, really boneheaded. Naked sunbathing, most people are vitamin D deficient to some degree. It's not a terrible thing to do, you know.
Well, you guys know, if you watched the film Deadpool, the second one, Josh Brolin, I believe, played Cable. So let's pull up that picture of the first picture, Josh Brolin. He essentially tried perineum sunning on his little pucker hole, and he burned it. So he
tender skin and sun gets sunburned.
Jesus, I'm going to invoke the Shani for Christ law here. You know, if you do something idiotic and really personal, you don't have to. There's no rule that says you have to make it a social media thing.
But yes, you do, because when you have no publicity, any publicity is good publicity, right?
Well, let's have a look at the next picture. This was his Instagram. So the next
of it, I don't need to. Oh.
That was the original lady. That was the lady on Instagram, and this is what he said. Josh Brolin posted the original lady who was sunning her butthole. And so he said, tried this perineum sunning that I've been hearing about, and my suggestion is do not do it as long as I did. My pucker hole is crazy burned, and I was going to spend the day shopping with my family. And instead, I'm icing and using aloe and burn creams because of the severity of the pain. I don't know who the F or who the fuck thought of this stupid shit, but fuck you nonetheless. Seriously, Black Hole Friday, Black Hole Sun, severe perineum burns, Santa Monica Fire Department, asshole care.
Okay. Number one, I take offense at the fact that he is bastardizing Black Hole Sun. But okay, so you're going to call out somebody for being dumb enough to share it on Instagram, but then you're going to turn around and do it. Wait a minute. Let me think here. Oh,
Josh Brolin Josh Brolin is a fine actor and a budding scientist. His N=1 good advice piece on not irradiating your anus. Excellent study. Very good.
You can look at that picture and it just looks like something I don't want to do. If I've got to lay there and hold my feet up in the air and what? No.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I have an equivalent response to that, to the concept of colonic irrigation. You know, someone puts a hose up your ass, and no, I don't need that. I've lived my whole life without that, and I don't feel an absence. Similarly, my taint doesn't see the light of day very often.
No, Doc, you do feel an absence. That's the thing. Get it? You actually do feel. Never mind.
Yeah, no, I get it. A friend of mine who's not insane went for colonic irrigation and told people about it. And my response was, Alistair, you say you're paying $80 for that? I'd pay $80 to have someone not stick a hose up my ring piece. Oh, it's good for you. It boosts your immunity and whatnot. I'm like, no, it really doesn't. You just pay a lot of money. Idiots.
So I wonder how many people are being treated for butthole burns.
It's a plague.
You know, butthole burns. I have it. And you know, and if you're as a lady too, you know, you have other like your other orifice there. You know, it's like very sensitive.
Internal sunburn.
Yeah.
You don't want that. You don't want that.
It's just heating up all the bits and pieces down there. That can't be a good idea. I just
the bugs and the sand and the no, I'm good.
Yeah. Are you trying to tan the area? I don't understand.
No, it's to do with your chakras, because you've got one right above your bunghole, and it recharges by interfacing with the frequencies and octaves of sunlight, which is the same as chocolate. And that's how that works.
That's what we learned from David Avocado Wolf. Chocolate is an octave of the sun. I forgot about that.
And bunghole chakra is a thing now. It definitely is. How are your chakras? Awesome. My chakras are knackered, actually. I'm going to get some therapy on those.
I'm going to go sit outside and show my butt to the sun.
Yeah, it's my religious right. No, it isn't.
Yeah, what are you doing, Doc?
I would end up in a special ward in about 5 minutes in the country I live in, because, you know.
I imagine, you could probably make some money if you did like a private stream, Doc, with some certain folks might be interested in watching you do that sort of thing.
Never going to happen. Never going to happen. Sorry.
It's never going to happen?
No.
Heck, man. I could do like a special video just for my patrons. Watch Doc sunning his butthole.
Yeah.
For certain tier levels, right?
Yeah, he's sold his dignity for super chats, and you can think of him as a whore from now on. Yeah, that's never going to happen. Sorry. Sorry, Mel.
At least what?
I said at least we found Doc's boundaries.
Yeah, he does have boundaries. He does have very, very strict boundaries.
I do.
He does. And he shares them with me sometimes, so I'm grateful for that. And if I cross one, he'll be like,
back off.
He'll just sit there and he'll shake his head.
Back there.
And I'll be like,
yeah, that's why I live a sad, lonely life here in the back cave. Don't interact with the other apes very much. Because going outside is a bit like, Tarzan. That's what I hear. I'm like, you're all lovely, but I'm not part of this.
Well, you tolerated me for some time. I came and visited you, and I hung out in the Bat Cave. I guess I could navigate into the world of Doc Savage for a little bit, hanging out.
Dark space. You don't want to go there. But this isn't about me. So, I'm coming towards the end of the show.
We are. So we've covered lots of different things. It's Dr. Amanda Glaze. We would love to have you back on sometime if you're willing to. I mean, after the butthole sunning, I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, we may go into vaginal weightlifting and urine therapy, but it's typically outside of the remit of this show.
We have talked about that before.
I
Those
am
are both.
happy to come back. You know, it is all, yes. Moving on.
Awesome. Well, any last words, Amanda, that you would like to share with people? Tell people what you do if they've come in late. You know where they can find you. I know you do speaking things. You go out and you help teachers. So, yeah.
Yeah, I get to do all the things and have all the fun.
So you can go to her website, amandaglaze.com.
Yeah, go there. Go there now. Do it. Subscribe to anything she has on YouTube and buy her stuff. All of it. Buy it all. Do it.
I think you have an appearance in February. I might actually get to come see you do a thing. That would be kind of cool.
Everyone should go.
So I'm working with teachers in Alabama in February, and I will also be. I'm going to be in a lot of places. I'll be in Texas, San Antonio, in January, in Alabama, and at Abraham Baldwin College in Georgia for a Darwin Week event in February.
Nice.
I am going wide scale in March and April in San Francisco and Los Angeles. So a little bit of everywhere, but always happy to have conversations, talk with people. Do have the website, amandalglaze.com. There's a contact page there that has my email address, a contact number, and some links to some of the projects that I'm involved in. I don't have anything really for sale, but I'm always happy to share research and other things that I'm engaged with. I've about decided that all y'all evolved shirt is going to happen, so I may have to add those to the website at some point. You know, get that little Southern take on the fact that, yes, we have all evolved, including humans. So, yeah, all y'all evolved. That's me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. It's always a joy to have you on my channel. We have the best time. I think it's like
that we do, and I am always happy to join and happy to be here. It was great finally getting to meet you, Doc. Great times, fun stuff. I learned a little bit more about your butthole than I think I was signed up for, but hey, all in the course of a day, right?
Hey, well, I mean, what's a butthole between friends? That's what I always say. It's been a privilege to speak with you, and it's a delight to meet someone who has your background, all of it, and presents as you do. So many thanks for taking the time to be with us here today.
Okay, well, any last words, Doc Savage, before we sign off, because we're coming up on hour 2.
Thank you to all the fans for being lovely. I am going to be a scientist without portfolio at the end of the week. I have finished my current assignment, so anything could happen. So I will be doing a little bit more on YouTube, and in the meantime, being a consultant, talking about vaccines with people who make vaccines. So moving on. I might be going back to Botswana, but I don't know yet. So watch this space for exciting updates.
All right. Well, I want to thank you all for being here. Next week, we have Omni Eris on. So he's coming back, and we'll take probably maybe a 2-week break for the holidays, give everybody time to kind of decompress. And then next month, we'll have Science First on, who talks about misrepresentation of science in journalism. So that'll be pretty interesting for that on. So next week, I don't know what our topic's going to be, Doc. You're pretty close with Omni Eris, so maybe you can help me navigate what kind of topic.
I may invoke the psychic connection and the time cube interface and discuss that with Michele. So yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again, Dr. Amanda Glaze, for being on the show. This has just been a delight. I was laughing a whole lot. But that's why I love this show. We get to be silly and have fun. And thank you guys in the side chat. Next Sunday will be the last day to earn points for swag stuff. We got a postcard that I'm going to send you with a special message in a coffee mug. something from behind me. I'm gonna like throw in one of my action figures. I know Doc will be like, Mel's gonna like stop hoarding so much geek stuff. Is she well?
No, it's just an excuse for her to go out and buy more replacement geek stuff.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I nailed it, didn't I, Mel?
Just, you know.
Oh, there's a space. Let's buy more.
People send me stuff too. People give me things sometimes. So there's stuff back here that people gave me and everything. So I was just like, you know, it can't kind of like get thrown away. And so, yeah, so every quarter we'll do a new swag bag. I'll throw in a t-shirt too. So yay. I'm so excited. This has been an awesome show. So thank you, Dr. Amanda Glaze. I really appreciate you being here. I'll message you and maybe I can like hang out with you in February. We'll see if that's a thing.
Sounds like pandemonium will ensue.
Awesome. And please do check out Doc Savage's channel. I'll post it in the description soon. And he's on a show with Omni Aris called PvP. Take a walk on the darker side of YouTube. It's really
darkest side of,
So
why
from
do you
all
hate
of
the
us
movie?
here, why do you hate the baby? Every time I super chat, it says that. It's funny. Anywho, so do check that out, and we will see you guys here next week for Audacity episode 20, and then we'll take a couple weeks break. So from all of us here, have a great weekend, rest of the weekend. Sending hugs.
I absolutely adore Doc.
Because I have testicles for some reason. Maybe part of it. I don't know. That was a lot of fun. I have to sign off pretty much.
It's awesome to see you, Doc.
Okay. Take care. Bye.